Hello and welcome to another episode of Microsoft Mentors, the podcast. Microsoft Mentors is designed to lift the lid on the career journeys of the most successful leaders in the Microsoft ecosystem and to share their knowledge, insights, experience and expertise with the wider Microsoft community, offering mentorship at scale. Each week I'll be having open and honest conversations with technology leaders, business owners and technical experts from across the world of Microsoft tech and unpicking their past routes to success, their current models for personal and professional growth and advising you on how to develop the next steps of your cloud career. Stay tuned every week, every Wednesday at midday on LinkedIn Live and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Let's grow together. This week on Microsoft Mentors, the podcast, I'm joined by Ryan Haraburda. He is the head of cloud at Tesco. I'm lucky enough to have known Ryan now for a number of years and have worked with him across his career as both a candidate and then recently over the last few years as a hiring manager. And we dive into Ryan's real sort of quick ascent in his career, starting out as a 16-year-old travelling across the West Midlands to get stuck into his IT apprenticeship and all the way through his journey now to being what is a relatively young head of cloud at the age of just 30. We dive into some of the challenges and some of the innovation that they're driving at Tesco, specifically around their adoption of Microsoft cloud technologies and how technology underpins a massive amount of what Tesco do as an organisation, both here in the UK and globally.
Thanks for joining me on the podcast. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thanks, buddy. So for the listeners, me and Ryan have known each other for a few old years now, haven't we? In different guises. Keep crossing paths.
Is that fortunately or unfortunately?
Right, depends how you look at it, mate, doesn't it, I guess? Me and Ryan were just chatting before we started recording, and with Microsoft Mentors, the plan of these episodes is always to understand a little bit more about the career journeys of people in the Microsoft space. And I think Ryan's got quite an interesting story, hopefully, that we can learn some lessons from, in that he's ascended through the career ladder quite quickly. So I guess to start off with, Ryan, just give the listeners a bit of a feel for what's your current role now? What do you do right now?
Yeah, so currently I am head of cloud within Tesco. So it's that typical cloud delivery role, supporting over 3,500 developers, building out infrastructure across the whole of Tesco retail. So yeah, I've been with Tesco now for coming up to just over a year and a half. So yeah, it's been a great journey so far. Currently building teams across UK and India. So I think we're near enough at double the size as what we were 12 months ago. So a great journey within Tesco as it stands.
Yeah. What's the just for the context? What's the size of that team now then across the globe for Tesco that you manage?
So roughly speaking, direct reports, it's probably easier just to keep to direct reports. So roughly we have 9 in the UK and soon to be 4 in India. We still have a couple more roles open in both UK and India. So if you're watching this and you've got any cloud expertise, please apply.
Absolutely. Early plug now, like, mate.
It's still growing. I think with the pipe of work that we have coming through, that will continue to grow over the next few years as well. So there's no huge stop on recruitment at the moment.
Yeah, nice. And I guess if we, that gives us a bit of a feeling as where you're at now in your career. If we take it all the way back and just, I guess, try to get a bit of a roadmap of that journey, where did you first enter IT in terms of, did you do an apprenticeship? Did you go to uni? What did that look like for you?
So IT was quite an odd career for me. My background is all sport. So I always wanted to be a PE teacher. Unfortunately, or fortunately, my father pushed me into IT while I was playing a good level of football. So I was doing it at college, studied a diploma in computing at college, much to my despise of my father at the time. I then went into an IT apprenticeship, and to give you a bit of background on that, So I live in Coventry. I used to ride my bike to Coventry train station, which was about a 15-minute journey. Turn up sweating. I was that person on the platform, sweating buckets. I used to carry my bike on the train. I'd then run from something like platform 1 to 15. Sounds like Harry Potter now. But I'd run from platform 1 to 15 again, looked like an absolute mess, and catch the train from Birmingham to Bromsgrove. And then it was another bike ride from Bromsgrove train station to, it was the Life After Stroke Centre, where I did an apprenticeship there. That was a real, I would say that was probably one of the most challenging steps into IT, given it was I think you were leaving the house at 5 o'clock in the morning, getting to Bromsgrove at 9 o'clock in the morning due to different trains. And if anyone knows Bromsgrove, getting the train in and out of Bromsgrove is a nightmare. So I don't recommend it. And then throughout my career, I've sort of touched upon everything. So started as an apprentice, moved into that sort of field role, which I thought was really important to get them customer and communication skills to really understand people's real life problems. And then I guess going on to the next step in my career, I'm probably missing some out here, but JLR Lear was probably a huge learning curve for me, working within a factory environment. Lots of angry production line workers, supporting all the production lines within Lear Corporation, who makes seats for JLR. That probably taught me a lot of resilience. I learned a lot of Polish swear words. Number one, I knew when to duck out of a situation. But yeah, it was a great learning curve.
And were they sort of more on the sort of support type roles then? They sound like they were quite sort of field based, so sort of in-person desk side support rather than sort of remote service desk type roles.
Yeah, so I guess, fast forwarding to where I am now and what you were just touching upon, I started at the bottom. So I did start as that first line support, went into field support. I guess you would class Lear, JLR as that second line support. It was more on the production line versus office base. So it was making sure that seats were pumping out the factory door. Everything was on a Windows XP, I think, device at the time. So yeah, it was very much started at the complete bottom. I never forget one day crawling between people's desks, cabling, which I do not miss. Equally, again, taught me some amazing skills. Firstly, to avoid people's feet, but also how to patch some cables in.
Yeah, and I think that route through apprenticeship, and interestingly on this podcast, I would probably say out of we're 7 episodes in, over half of those people have entered IT through the apprenticeship route. It just gets you on the tools so much faster, doesn't it, than potentially going down the university route, which is obviously a lot more theoretical to start with. It gets you into that world of work.
I mean, different people have different things that they look for in people. Certifications to me realistically don't mean a great deal. I certainly look for that working experience, attitude, and what you are wanting to be in your next step versus what you currently are. I always advise anyone that wants to get into tech, get an apprenticeship, get your foot in the door, start to build your knowledge. And sometimes it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. I know plenty of people in the tech space that have now started their journey in an apprenticeship and they're doing extremely well. Equally, there's people that have done degrees doing extremely well, but I think getting your foot in that door is the hardest part in any job at the moment. Everybody wants experience. And it's a real tough market at the moment.
Yeah. And obviously, as your career's progressed, the focus has become very heavy on cloud. When did cloud technologies first start entering your sort of working life, and what role were you in then, do you think?
It was probably back at SCC. So cloud was very much the new thing where every customer made that typical journey. We want everything in the cloud. They did it very, very badly. And then in-swoop the big MSPs and save the day. So SCC, one of the customers was, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name, but I'll say what they did. They're a huge provider of tobacco. And they made that typical journey, moved to cloud, looked at their cloud spend, panicked, and SCC swooped in and then started building a cloud delivery function. So I would say SCC was probably the real entry point into cloud. And and again, it was a great experience working in an enterprise world with some great engineers around me within SCC, and gained a vast amount of experience there as well.
Yeah. And was SCC was the first role where you stepped into that customer facing consultancy MSP type world then, was it?
Yes, SCC would have been the first one, and that was boy, was that a reality check in a good way. Not coming from an MSP world, SCC certainly taught me a lot. The amount of stuff I learned within SCC over the course of my career there, I'm forever grateful for. They at that time in my life, I only ever saw myself at an MSP. I enjoyed the fires. I enjoyed working with lots of multiple different customers. I also enjoyed the atmosphere at SCC. I've got a lot of people to thank within SCC because they've certainly allowed me to grow and gave me the confidence to continue my career in technology.
Yeah, yeah. And that's, yeah, good segue for me, that, because I always like to ask people if there's any particular mentors that they had earlier in their career that, taught them certain things or put them on a certain pathway. So it sounds like there are a few people at SCC that really helped you at that part of your career journey then.
Yeah, and there's different people that have entered my life at different times that equally have either taught me some amazing lessons or some things not to do. And along that journey, I think you have to be thankful to everybody that stepped into your life and either taught you how you should be or how you shouldn't be. Because I'm sure we've all got people in our lives that we know we definitely don't want to be like that, but we like the way that person acts. I think for me, I was probably the typical old school person that I don't need a mentor. I don't need somebody to tell me what to do. I'm growing myself. And there's probably one person that really stands out for me in my career, and that was at Clarinet. So Clarinet, I joined, and I know we're skipping into another role now, but Clarinet, I joined as that head of cloud, looking after cloud delivery, and that was across UK, Portugal, and I supported building out in Hyderabad as well. But what I really learned at in Clarinet was my reactiveness and sometimes my emotional outbursts as an ADHD sufferer needed to be tamed. And there was my director there. It was tough. It was really, really tough. It was a tough year of being, we called it life coaching. And because he was on all the calls that I was on, every single call afterwards, you could guarantee I would have a 5-minute conversation with him. Ryan, you did this made this person feel this way. Ryan, when you said this, and it went on like that for about a year. But equally, the coaching, the mentorship that he provided, I don't want to make it like a sales pitch, but I cannot thank him enough for that mentorship. He definitely taught me a lot of life lessons, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, I think everyone needs that, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in your own little world, isn't it? And think that the way that you do things or the way that you approach things is the right way. And sometimes you do need that external voice to come in and go, you were right in doing these bits, but actually, you could have done this differently. Maybe you could have communicated that in a different way. And like you mentioned as well, I think naturally, you're quite a direct person. You're very transparent, aren't you, Ryan? Sometimes that could probably translate wrong. Sometimes that might translate wrong in terms of how other people take what you're saying to them. And it's just learning that and understanding it about yourself, isn't it? And then being able to come up with ways to communicate in different ways in different scenarios, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. I think equally as well, it was learning about different people's cultures. I'm massive on team. I like the dressing room atmosphere. I like to come to work and know that we've got that dressing room atmosphere, but at the same time, we're all here to deliver. And I believe that's how you get the best out of a team, is to really empower them. But when I first started my journey on hiring in the likes of India and even a little bit of Portugal, I couldn't believe how direct they were. And sometimes I was like, Jesus, that was really, really direct. And sometimes that got my back up, because equally I was like, well, why are you saying it like that for? And again, through that mentorship of Ryan, this is how that person's culture is. This is why they're saying it this way. They don't necessarily mean it that way. That was a huge learning curve for me as well. So yeah, I mean, when you look at my career, it's definitely been fast paced, but by no means has it been easy. I have not skipped into the roles like it may seem.
And because obviously you started out as a techie, sort of on the tools, and then started transition. I know you role at NTT Data, and transitioned into sort of leadership, and then obviously ultimately into Clarinet, where you're at now, which are much more sort of head of and leadership type roles. So was that a strategic career decision from you? Had you always thought that you wanted to go down that route, or did it happen by accident?
No. For me, I reached a point in my career of like a crossroad, and I had to decide. Look, I'm either going to go technical or go down leadership. And one of my strengths that I believe I have is building a great team, driving outcomes, and really empowering people. So for me, it was actually quite an easy decision. There wasn't really much thought that went into it. It was, I really, really want to lead teams. I want to do something. Well, I want to empower teams to do amazing things. And for me, that is all I can ever ask for. If I leave any company, I always think, well, what have I brought to the table? Is that team now successful? If yes, I can walk away a happy man.
Yeah. Do you think part of that comes from your love of sport? Do you think there's some crossover there in terms of, like say, building that dressing room, building that team, and that performance side of things? Do you think that crosses over from your time younger, being so
Yeah,
focused on?
I definitely think there's it's funny because when you speak to that's probably someone's going to pull a fact out of the air now. From my experience, when you speak to most leaders, there's definitely some sort of competitive edge behind them, whether that's ex-military, whether that's sport, whether that's gaming. There's always an element of some sort of competitiveness in them. I know most people that I work with Tesco have some sort of sport on the side, whether that's cycling, cage fighting. There's a vast amount of sport within the team. So I think, yeah, for me personally, it probably does fit from them days of leading from the front.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you, between SCC and Clarinet, you're obviously in that consultancy, customer facing world. The opportunity then came up to move over to Tesco, which is obviously internal in-house effectively. What were the biggest differences that you, I guess, came across straight away in terms of the difference between working out in the consultancy world versus being at Tesco internally?
Nobody's in the office past 5 o'clock. I think that was probably the biggest culture shock for me. With I'm used to anyone that works in MSP, your emails are always on, your team notifications are always on, and you're in your messaging and being messaged gone 7-8 o'clock at night. I never forget the days of up till stupid o'clock in the morning because you've got a P1. When you move into that more internal role, the work-life balance is amazing. You do generally get time with your family, which was key for me. I was burning the candle at both ends, and if I'd have kept going the way I was going, I'd probably be in a different situation now. So that was a huge change. I would say there's a far lot. It's not. The work is more. You get to see a true journey of Tesco versus just delivering an SOW, delivering it very quickly and getting on to the next one. So you actually get to see something go through its life cycle, which is amazing. And then equally, you're working. Well, I am working for one of the biggest retail companies in the UK, and that for me is a huge achievement. So yeah, there's quite a few things that are slightly different between an MSP consultancy space and then you go into an internal. The first 6 months, I was all over the place. I missed it. I didn't miss it. And then you start to find your feet again and realize how life is now. It's slightly different.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, being involved in that longer term journey, I guess you're involved more at a strategic level. You can input into those longer term roadmaps because we know with a lot of technology transformation, yes, okay, a particular part of that transformation, the project, maybe 3 or 6 months, but the overarching journey could be 3 to 5 years. And in the MSP world, a lot of the time you're just coming in, like say, to deliver that one particular part of that project, that one particular statement of work, and then you're off on to the next. So
The
I
other
can
thing that
imagine.
shocks me, actually, touching upon the Tesco and MSP, is when I joined Tesco. So in the MSP world, normally speaking, 90% of your engineers hang around for 3 to 4 years, and then they have to naturally move on. So there's quite a high churn. In Tesco, when I first joined, everyone I spoke to, I've been here 7 years, 10 years, 30 years, 24 years. And I remember thinking to myself, why are people here for so long? I'm not used to that mindset. I'm used to 3 or 4 years and out, but I generally get it now. I do get why people stay at Tesco. It's a great company to be at.
Yeah, I guess there's more of a culture because it's a larger business in terms of where it impacts. There's so many different elements to it, whereas an MSP is great, but it's only ever going to interact with its customers, isn't it?
Exactly.
No, definitely interesting in terms of the differences. And I think there's always, for people on the MSP side of things, there's always that, well, I have a lot of conversations with people anyway, that are considering what are those differences going to be, and are those skills that they have from the MSP world and consultancy world transferable? And like you say, probably a lot of the reservations that you maybe went into, am I going to get bored? Is it going to be really slow paced compared to the MSP world? Actually, it's about finding the right organisation that's going through the right sort of technology change, and it can be just as exciting on the other side of the fence.
100%. It's definitely not boring, and there's definitely plenty to do. I think my advice to anybody that's starting in technology is latch onto a mentor, find somebody that you can really who understands you, but you can also feel open enough to discuss your current challenges. I think that was the one thing that I really struggled with at the start, was opening up and feeling vulnerable. Um, when you find that mentor and you're vulnerable and you listen, your career will rocket. But you do have to be open. You do have to take on the feedback. But yeah, it's definitely
Remembering the feedback as well, isn't it? Which is probably the most difficult part of it. It's
Well,
not
that's
just
it.
about.
Anyone can take feedback, and I can say, Ollie, here's all the feedback. Your lights are shocking, but if you keep them up and that's your choice, that is personal to you. It's only my opinion.
Yeah.
But you have to work on that feedback, and some of it you may not want to hear. I know for me personally, when I felt like I was adding value to a meeting, but in fact, it was getting to a stage of, oh, Ryan's off again, for example.
Yeah.
For me, that switching mentality to now being the last person to speak in the room, listening to everybody's points, and then formulating my own opinion because I've already gathered all the context, all the information, and then delivering my opinion because that's all it is. You definitely gain power's the wrong word, but you gain more power in the room because you have all the answers ultimately.
Yeah. And so that career journey has got you to where you're at now. And as we said right at the start, probably, from the outside looking in, if you were just going to say, what does a head of cloud at a Tesco or a large global organization look like? Most people would probably guess someone that's slightly older and been in the industry for a lot longer. So if you could pick out from your own experience and also from your own sort of personality, maybe, what do you think has allowed you to get to where you are so quickly? Is there anything inherent in terms of choices you've made for your career, or just personality that you think have helped you get to where you are?
I think firstly, anybody that has a mindset that this is what somebody should look like for a role, I think you should probably review that opinion.
Yeah.
I never think you should pigeonhole anybody into thinking, oh, well, this person is only young, for example, they shouldn't be in that position yet, or they don't deserve to be in that position. I know often there is sometimes where I'll sit there and I'll think, I am, in fact, I know I am a young head of within any organization. So I do sometimes get that imposter syndrome where I think I am young. Do people value what I say? Or even take it on board and respect what I say. But I think age is just a number. I think it comes with experience. When you've been in IT from the age of 16, like I have myself, I think I've gained enough experience and I've touched upon every area to warrant the position I'm in now. Going back to your last part of the question, I think for me it's my drive. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have all the answers. But I will damn sure do my best to find the answers. I believe that I am good at building good teams that deliver. My experience shows that. But I think for me, the key thing here is, in any organisation, when you come in, they don't want someone to come in with like a wrecking ball. I want to build good culture. I want people to be transparent with me, because what I don't know, I can't fix. And I think my desire to deliver amazing solutions that are long lasting will always allow my career to grow. I'm always looking at the next step. What am I going to be doing in 3 years' time? What am I going to be doing in 5 years' time? What am I going to be doing next year? I'm always wanting more for myself. I'm never happy. And again, maybe that's the ADHD side of me. Maybe sometimes I should sit back and go, this isn't too bad. But I'm always thinking, what's next? I'd like to think I'm a nice person.
No, and I think, having known you for a number of years, mate, you definitely have got this underlying drive, which is clear in terms of where your career has taken you. And then I guess if we flip it now then onto, you're in your head of role, you're in a leadership role now, you're in a position where probably you are maybe becoming the mentor a little bit more for people within your team. What does that look like for you in terms of, using your experience, growing through your career, and also your experience being mentored? How does that now impact you in terms of how you help your own team develop?
I think because I had, in my opinion, I had one of the best mentors that I will probably ever have the pleasure to meet, and he still is my mentor. So I see it as I've learned from the best. But for me, especially when you're expanding a team, firstly, mentorship comes in time, and you can't force mentorship upon anyone. Somebody has to come to you with I would love to be mentored by you. I would love your feedback. And I think you have to gain the respect and trust between each other. So as you're building teams out, I'm certainly not going to pounce on somebody and say, I'm going to be your mentor and here's some feedback. It comes with time. I know recently we've just filled one of the roles, and I was actually discussing mentorship with him. And I was saying, look, the best advice I can give you is find somebody you trust and get them to mentor you. And that doesn't have to be necessarily the person you report to at the moment. That could be skip management. You could go to a director. So I wouldn't force it upon anyone, but my mentorship to everybody is transparency. Again, be transparent with each other, bounce ideas off each other. You'll learn more off each other than just sitting by yourself in a dark corner. And I think once you allow that transparency to happen within the team, you can deliver amazing things. When I'm talking to people that want to go into leadership roles, it's all about, for me personally, it's about showing empathy, showing that you understand people's personal circumstances and work circumstances. There's days where we all get up and get out of bed and think, I really, really, really can't be arsed with today. And we all have it. And it's understanding that something might have gone at home. We've got a 10-month-old baby. She's kept us up endless nights. And it's about, I know my leader, he understands that, and he's very, very flexible in that. So equally, you've got to show that flexibility within the team.
No, totally get that. I got kicked out of my own bed last night and had to go sleep in the spare room so my son can have my space in the bed. It's ridiculous.
It's I think that's another learning curve, isn't it? It's I've got a 10-month-old and I was extremely naive, put it that way.
Yeah, I think everyone is when we go into that part of life, aren't we, mate? But it's interesting what you said there as well about building that culture, because I think if you can build a team where they have that collaborative nature, and really naturally within a team they knowledge share and they learn and they develop off each other, then almost you end up with 5 mini mentors all around you within your team. Exactly. And then you can go and find a more experienced mentor for the maybe longer term career journey piece that you want to work on, or like you said, find someone that's a bit more of a life coach or a skills coach. But when it comes to the technology mentors, if you've got and breed a culture within the team where everyone's collaborative and sharing and learning off each other, then ultimately everyone is going to develop their skills quicker within that team.
100%. It's teach the teacher.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess just in terms of Tesco and cloud, so obviously a lot of the listeners of the podcast are cloud professionals. What's your sort of current roadmap when it comes to Azure and public cloud? Can you tell us a little bit more about the journey that you're on as a business with cloud right now?
Yeah, so I think, well, if the past 12 months Tesco went on that cloud journey, was definitely peaking at a seriously high cloud spend. So we've currently reduced a lot of cloud spend. I guess our top line deliverables or roadmap for the next 12 to 18 months is make cloud more consumable while implementing some more guardrails and some security around that, and keep that cloud cost down. So I guess they're the big hitters if you were talking around the Tesco TLT, which is the technology leadership team, that they are the things that they're focusing on. We obviously also know, while SOX isn't in the UK, it's definitely going to come soon. So we're trying to be proactive around that side of things. But Tesco currently sits in the tens of millions of pounds of cloud spend. So forcing any change is large scale. As I said at the start, 3,500 developers, there's always going to be an impact. So we always have to look at what the impact is to return on investment of completing the work or executing that piece of work. A lot of things within cloud at the moment aren't necessarily just a technology impact, it's a change in working ways. And again, we're not just talking about a couple of hundred users, we are talking about 3,500 developers. And we also do not want to stop Tesco from selling beans, bananas, everything else that they sell. So we have to be very mindful in what we do.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a lot of the time when we talk about technology transformation, people think straight away about the implementation, the delivery, the build of the actual technology solution. But actually the biggest change a lot of the time is on the business and the end user side of things, and educating them and getting them on the journey before the technology is delivered. Yeah.
And I think not just Tesco, any organization potentially made that cloud journey of not quite understanding what cloud is. So may have deployed some bad practices, but at the time that was fine because we only knew what we knew at the time. So now there's a bit of a retrofit on the go, and moving forward, I guess, you only have to look in the market. Everything's moving towards AI. We want to automate as much as we can. So we are at the forefront of the latest technology. We do test a lot of our technology out on campus to make sure that we don't impact all of you lot who do shop at Tesco, of course. In fact, Ollie, where do you shop?
At Tesco. I've got a Tesco delivery system.
You stuttered.
They have. The reason I stuttered is because I'm terrible at doing the online shop, and my wife Abby always does it and always gives me shit for the fact that she's doing the Tesco online shop again. But it is Tesco.
Tesco's is the best store, of course.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, my only argument against Tesco is that I think donuts are better for Morrison's. That's my only
I can't comment. It'd be interesting, actually. So what's your biggest gripe with Tesco when you go into store? Is there anything that you think every single time, do you know, I wish this was different? Or because I was speaking to someone in store the other day, because we get Tesco discount, and when you scan it, the cashier sees it. And she said to me, what I don't understand is why we're still printing out paper receipts. You scan a club card, therefore you've got an account. Why is that not uploaded onto your club card account with all your receipts? And I thought, you know what, that's a really, really good point. I don't know the answer. I should find out. So yeah, I'd be keen to know, is there anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, I still think
high prices, because we can't change that.
Well, no, yeah. It's not Tesco specific. I still think self-checkout technology has a way to go. The amount of times you have to get the bloody person over to help you out on with it One thing where I do see retail going, I'd be interested to see how far down the line it is in reality on a larger scale. You've probably seen it like I think it's Amazon have got stores in London where, you go and pick off the shelf, you put it straight in your basket, not the scan and go piece, but you literally take it off the shelf, put it in your basket, walk out the door, and it knows what you've bought and then charges you to account on it. How far away is that sort of
It's
technology
already
from?
happening. Yeah. No, so that happens on campus. I don't know the stats, but there's a reason why it's not on large scale at the moment. It's simply down to cost. So if you imagine the Tesco store on campus is probably the same as your local One Stop or Tesco Express. It's not that big, but I'm sure it has over something like 250 cameras within it, and the cost to implement that is huge. So when you start thinking of your superstores, I dread to think the cost. But yeah, effectively, what the store on campus, it's all weighted shelves. So what will happen is you'll pick something off the shelf, it will tell stock it needs to replenish it, and then also does trends on how many times that's picked up, what days it's picked up, when the deliveries need to come in. So there's more to all of retail than just what we think of going to scan a tin of beans at the checkout and disappearing and enjoying beans on toast. There's a lot more to it, and I think that's what shocked me when I joined Tesco, because I know when I joined, it was very much like, oh, Ryan, you've got a new job. Where are you going? At Tesco. And they were sort of looking at me like, Tesco? Why Tesco? And the longer and the more context you gather at Tesco, the more you understand that it's not just selling food or clothes. There's a lot more technology behind it. But yeah, on campus, we have that technology, and everyone enjoys it, because you feel like you've robbed something at the time. And then a couple of minutes later, you get that notification on your phone. You're like, bugger, they got me.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting, and because when I think about it, about Tesco and where technology feeds into it, it's literally everywhere. Like you said, you go in and you buy a can of beans from Tesco Express in middle of London. That goes through then the checkout. Then there's a whole waterfall effect logistically in terms of stock levels, how that then feeds into the ordering process. All of the logistics around it in terms of the movement of stock. Then you put in things like online sales and home deliveries and all of that piece. And all of a sudden you're thinking, literally everything. I'm going in and buying a physical tin of beans, but me buying that physical tin of beans is all built on technology at the background.
Yeah. It's the more you think about it, the scarier it gets, because there is so much tech involved, from just a retail store, which is bizarre. But yeah, it's a cool place to work. You definitely learn a lot around that.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess
another cool fact, just quickly, it's just I was meant to say that when you said it. So the self checkout. So the voice, and I only learned this last year at an awards thing. So the voice on the Tesco checkout is actually somebody that works at Tesco. That when they launched self checkout, I'm pretty sure this person was a graduate, and they were like, "Oh, I'll be the proof of concept. I'll do the voice." And believe it or not, it's still his voice now that's live in stores. So whenever we have an award ceremony, this chap comes up and he does the voice. So yeah, he was a graduate at Tesco, I think, was a proof of concept, and yeah, made it to the big time, and is now the voice of Tesco.
There you go. With all of that tech, and obviously lots of moving parts within it, and I know you touched on it briefly that it's on the roadmap, but I imagine with AI, large language models and machine learning, all of that is going to really sort of push the retail space generally, but also Tesco forward over the next few years as well, I imagine.
Yeah, I think at the moment what we're trying to do is what we don't want to do is make the typical journey that we did in cloud and go all out AI, and then we have this ridiculous cloud spend again. So we're being strategic in how we allow AI through the business, and it is purely on business cases. So we haven't opened it up to everybody because we just do not want it to be this surge in, we could do AI for this, AI for that, and there's no actual traction to it. Of course, like every business, we're investing in AI. We're trying to work out what we can automate as best we can. But what we're trying to do is to really show value in what we're using it for. And I think that's the key here is use it where there's value, and not just for the sake of enabling it. And it's the same with, I mean, you've got ChatGPT. It's again, use it and take the context from it, but don't sit there copying and paste it from it.
Yeah. I think I might have said this on a previous podcast, can't remember, but I did. I almost got tripped up by that massively last year, and it was after Microsoft Ignite, and I was like, I can go through and trawl through all the updates, or I can just ask ChatGPT to give me a summary. So I asked it for a summary of the core Azure announcements from Ignite for 2024. Got a list of the top 5. I was like, sweet, that's a perfect LinkedIn post. I can use that, put my own spin on it, and push out what the main announcements have been. And as I'd written the post and everything, I was about to click go, and I did one final read through, and then just part of my brain went, I'm sure I know about that already, and I'm sure I know about that already. And I went and I sanity checked it from different source, and 3 of the top 5 announcements from 2024, one of them was from 2021, the other one was from 2022. So it still needs a human in the feedback loop, doesn't it, for a lot of it?
Yeah, it's a tool. It's a tool that you should keep in your toolbox. But certainly, it just have a nose at it first. I know plenty of people that have tripped themselves up on it. I remember one in particular that the person signed the email off yours fruitfully. And I was thinking, yours fruitfully? What the hell is yours fruitfully? Where have you got that from? And I did a cross-reference check with ChatGPT, and I was like, that's definitely from ChatGPT. Nobody signs an email off yours fruitfully.
No. Although it works at Tesco, especially if you work in the grocery.
Here's news break. That was Ollie.
Personally, do you have any sort of key sources or places that you go to? Because obviously, cloud tech generally, but especially in the Microsoft world, it moves at such a fast pace, and there's always something new coming downstream. Do you have any ways or any sources that you generally go to sort of keep yourself ahead of the curve on that side?
Because of the account we have with Microsoft, we get quite a lot of that information firsthand. So most of the Microsoft stuff, either Tesco are requesting for future improvements. So some of the stuff that Microsoft released, like every other company that put in their requests, we get some traction on that. So we get a lot of feedback from Microsoft. We also we're lucky enough to have sessions with Microsoft where they announce the latest things that are coming, things that are coming into preview. So most of my information does come from there at the moment. And I do have quite a few good people on LinkedIn that I also follow. So yeah, I'd say that they're probably my 2 main forms at this present moment in time. That's probably also a bit of a reflection here. That's probably also due to my laziness in this situation, and that's because of having a 10-month-old baby and then huge deliverables within Tesco. I probably need to invest a bit of time in myself. So yeah, that's a bit of self-reflection.
Yeah, it's always that, isn't it? Balance of finding time. I think we're lucky that we live in the age that we do, where there is a lot of content out on social media, and if you find the right people that have got the right expertise, you can build your own bubble of knowledge up from those people without having to go and do too much groundwork yourself. You just need to be able to find the time to consume it, don't you?
It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Exactly right.
Equally, I mean, when you work with a team of experienced engineers, especially during our stand-ups, we often talk around new tech, things, what's coming, have we considered this? And again, it's having that, going back to that changing room atmosphere of speaking open and freely of new tech that's coming in. It may not provide any value to Tesco, but it's good to know about it. So yeah, there's also a lot of information that gets absorbed from the engineers.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. Well, some good learnings there, I think, from your journey into where you're at now as head of cloud. I'm going to put you through the Microsoft Mentors quickfire round now, mate.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's not too hard. So it's just six or 8 questions, 1-sentence questions, and then from your side, if you can try and do 1 or 2 sentence answers, try and keep it sort of as quick as you can for the quick fire round. So are you ready to go, mate?
Go for it.
Born ready. Already covered this a little bit, but if you're going to put it down to one thing, what's the biggest difference between working internally versus working externally in the partner consultancy world?
Work-life balance.
Cool. Might know this one as well, based on what you've been saying. But if you didn't work in tech, what would you have been doing?
PE teacher. No, I don't know. I generally don't know. I put all my eggs into tech after sport, so I would probably say something to do with sport.
Yeah, we not be number 9 for golf.
Maybe they'd be doing better. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows, mate? Who knows? What would your one piece of career advice be for someone that's starting out in tech and cloud tech now?
Get a mentor, be vulnerable, and take any feedback that's given to you and really, really digest that feedback.
Yeah, nice. I like it. Away from tech skills, what is the biggest personality or personal attribute that you look for people when you're hiring into your teams?
I look for somebody that is willing to admit that they don't know everything. I love nothing more than someone saying, look, I'm not too sure about the answer on this one, but I'm going to go away after this and find it out, versus trying to fumble their way through it. I like somebody that is a team player but also can work by themselves, and somebody that's got a bit of personality. Again, I keep saying about this dressing room atmosphere. It really does make you're at work more than you're at home. Let's make it fun while delivering something amazing. So somebody that's got a bit of personality is always good.
Yeah, got to have a bit of dressing room banter. What's an instant interview red flag for you?
Late. Honestly, lateness to me. And do you know what? I actually posted this. It was a good few months back. So back in the day, rolling back the years, you used to turn up for an interview, and the rule always to me, as when I was growing up, was you turn up 15 minutes early and you're sat in that reception with your CV in hand, and you're ready to go and you're prepared. Now, while I know Teams is completely different, and I don't expect someone to be sat in a lobby for 15 minutes, there's no better feeling than joining a meeting a couple of minutes early and seeing someone in the lobby, because to me, that means you're ready, you're prepared. Let's get the show on the road. So for me, lateness is a real stickler. And my mentor will he will curse me for saying all this, because he always says to me, "Yeah, but Ryan, someone might have had a personal circumstance," and I get all that side of it. But for me, he's definitely going to watch this and think, Ryan, I've told you now for over 12 months, people have personal challenges outside of work that could have happened. But yeah, lateness for me.
Yeah. On that, I know we're in the middle of the quickfire round, but I've got a good anecdote on that. And again, it came from a mentor of mine when I was earlier in my career and going out to like lots of interviews. And again, this was pre-COVID when it was in-person interviews. But it was the best piece of advice I had and it's really good for in-person interviews, is that be as nice and as polite and as friendly as possible as you can to the receptionist. Because the amount of times that people come in and they're rude or short and they're in their own little bubble because they're about to go into an interview, when they're really short and direct with the receptionist. Whereas if you make an impression in the receptionist, a lot of the time that actually gets back to the person that you're interviewing with. Or if you're waiting in the lobby, in the waiting room, and you stood having a conversation with the receptionist or with people that are in and around the lobby, and the person that you're interviewing comes down and sees that situation happening, already, you're building that rapport with the rest of the team, and you're creating really good personal skills. So yeah, that's a little top tip
just
on
being
that.
Prepared. Yeah, for me, it's just being prepared. Like, you have to be. Let's face it, any role in tech at the moment, salaries are high, people are getting paid well. We're all working professionals. So for me, first impression, be on time.
Yeah. If you're a techie right now, what's the best way if someone wants to pivot their career toward leadership and management? How do they start that pivot?
I think again, a mentor within leadership is probably the best pivot. And that the reason for that is not just so they can give you feedback, it's more to allow you to understand the people side of the role, because engineering is one thing, and being a techie, being a tech lead is amazing, and that's one side of the role. However, there's a huge part of the role that nobody wants to talk about, which is when shit isn't going your way, and you know what, people aren't performing, or you're having to deal with someone's personal circumstance that you have to really understand, and you ultimately have to cancel meetings for. And it's like, this is far more important, this conversation here, than whether Tesco's is going to flog another couple of tins of beans. So it's that people side and understanding people skills. So I think the best thing to do is, again, find that mentor, find that leader that you want to be. Have a look at Simon Sinek. He is a brilliant mentor on LinkedIn. While he's not somebody that you can openly pick up the phone to, read some of his forums about people, leadership, and what makes a good leader. And honestly, sit there and ask yourself, is that me? What type of leader do I want to be? So yeah, find somebody that can give you that insight.
Yeah. And then the last one, and I know normally finish the quick fire round with them, and it's about where you work right now. What's the best part of working at Tesco? Apart from the great beans.
Yeah, and the discount. I would say the huge investment we have in technology. I think that is refreshing, given that normally most in-house IT technology teams are normally hidden away in a server room, and you don't get any investment. And I've been there, done that. So I think the huge investment in tech, we're trying to be at the forefront of that. And I think for me, when I reflect on the past 12 months, we are starting to build an amazing team. And when you reflect on that, there's a sense of achievement for the team, firstly, because they have achieved some amazing things. But also, there's an achievement for me that holding out for the right people was worth it. Because having a great team around you that you trust, you've got each other's backs, you are delivering some amazing outcomes. I think, that's a great reflection point to take away, that we're all not doing too bad here.
Yeah. And I think if you build a team that you can trust, that can deliver the goals for now, it then allows you as a leadership team to then start going, well, we know that team, we can trust them to deliver that. Let's start looking at what else we can be doing. And then you can start building the skills and the team to help that next part of the roadmap as well, can't you? So,
yeah. I think equally, talking about transparency, actually, let's spin this. So we've known each other a while. So Ollie, you want to roll? So we've known each other quite a while now, and I think we're fairly transparent. What is as a strength of mine and a weakness of mine that you've picked up on or noticed? And please be transparent.
I think they're probably the same.
Okay.
So I think one of your biggest strengths is that when anyone interacts with you, you know what Ryan's thinking. And that is ultimately a massive strength, because a lot of the time you just don't need to read between the lines with you. But sometimes that can be a weakness as well, because it's like, oh shit, no, Ryan really means that. But ultimately I think it lands on being more of a strength and a weakness than a weakness, sorry. Because that transparency makes you someone that's really easy to deal with, whether that's, in a personal setting, in a professional setting. It's not having to read for any bullshit with you. You know exactly how it is. And sometimes when it's positive, that's great. And sometimes, if it's a more challenging situation, it's maybe more difficult to deal with. But no, I think for me, that's what I've always thought about you in all the years that we've known each other. It's just no having to cut through the shit. You know what you're thinking, and I can deal with that because I can work with it if I know what someone's thinking.
Maybe that's the Cov lad in me. Who knows? But no, I really value the feedback. I try and gather as much feedback as I can from people that I speak to. Again, as we said, feedback is key, and it's the only way anyone's going to grow. So latch onto a mentor, accept feedback, and really it will accelerate your career. I promise.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I think that's a wrap, mate. I really enjoyed that. Thanks very much for your time, mate. And I'll make sure it's tagged out on social media so that everyone can find you. And if you want to come and join Ryan's team at Tesco, then speak to me before Ryan.
Come directly to me if you want.
Cheers for that, mate.
Cheers, Ollie. See you later.